עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, 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 עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין,
Chag Sameach, everyone. Welcome to Temple Beth Zion's Pesach Seder. We have one more fun and lively song for you before we officially begin. And with it, we have a list of things to help you prep for your Seder. Take us out of Egypt, free us from slavery. Bake us some matzah in a haste. Don't worry about flavor, give no thought to taste. Oh, it's rush, rush, rush to the Red Sea. If we don't cross, it's a shame, for it's 10 plagues down and you're out at the Pesach history game.
Take me out to the Seder with friends and family. Serve me matzah and 4 cups of wine. Ask me 4 questions and we will be fine. And it's root, root, root for Elijah, that he will soon reappear. And let's hope, hope, hope that we'll meet once again next year. And let's hope, hope, hope that we'll meet once again next year.
We're so glad you're joining us tonight for the Pesach Seder. I'm Rabbi Sharon Sobel, and with me we have Judy Henn, Zach Steinberg, Sara Schultz and her family. We have Beth Steinberg, Zach's mom. We also have Kara Kane, and Sara Schultz is here with her family. So we're so thrilled you're joining us. We know that this is the second year of celebrating Pesach in a pandemic, and that the second year we're doing this online remotely. But we've learned a few things over the past year about how to create community, how to make connections, even though we are distant. We hope that next year we'll be able to gather again in each other's homes. I have a few things on my Seder plate. I have a mask to signify that we are trying to do things safely. A lemon, which used to signify people who are left off. And for me, this year, the lemon signifies those who we can't be together with. If I was able, I would put a COVID vaccination on there as well to signify the fact that the COVID vaccine will hopefully enable us all to be together safely. I just want to make a few comments before we start reading from the Haggadah. A Seder is really a talk feast in 4 acts. The number 4 figures prominently throughout the Seder. The first act is the preparation, the intro. We do all of our opening blessings, we set the scene, and we drink our first cup of wine. The second act is the telling of the Pesach story, the heart of the Seder. And we're supposed to tell this story 4 different ways. And there's a lot of creativity that can go into that. And we have the second cup of wine. The third act is the festive meal, because we're supposed to rejoice and join together with family and friends if we are able to do so safely. And there's a third cup of wine. Wine is a symbol of joy. The fourth act is the conclusion of the Seder, where we open the door for Elijah. We'll talk about that as we get to that point in the Seder. And we sing songs of blessings. So we're going to begin with this first slide that you see on your screen. So we gather tonight at our Seder. At our Seder to celebrate the liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt, more than 3,000 years ago. The Hebrew word Seder means order, because we do things in a very specific order. And the Hebrew word Haggadah, which is what we're reading from, means the telling, because as I said, we tell the story. And we're supposed to go miganut, from degradation, the shavach, to praise. Judy, would you like to continue and read the next part for us?
Sure. Why do we celebrate Passover? Jewish tradition requires that each of us act as if we had personally gone forth from Egypt. Every generation is encouraged to make the story of the Exodus their own. The Seder is the original experiential learning opportunity. It uses all 5 senses, and it includes ritual foods, songs and stories, family, friends and community, visuals. It's truly a memory maker.
Tell us who you have with you tonight, Judy.
Oh, I have my friends Animal and Gonzo. They joined us last year at our first virtual Seder without an extended family, and they enjoyed it so much they wanted to come back.
Great. Well, we look forward to hearing what they're going to do tonight. Sarah, would you like to continue?
Sure. The story of the Exodus, however, is not just a Jewish story. It is a story that embodies humanity's passion for justice and freedom. Tonight, we celebrate the efforts of all people everywhere to become free and to free others from oppression of all kind. Our festive celebration is intended to be a source of inspiration and strength. We can use the lessons from the Seder throughout the year as we strive to enhance our vigilance against injustice and strive to make freedom and liberty the reality of all who dwell on this, I can't see the earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach.
As we welcome all of you from near and far, we're grateful for the gift of technology that allows us to be together. We read in Psalms how good and pleasant it is when people live together in harmony. Please sing along with me. With your Zooms muted, may these words be a blessing for all who have come to our Seder table tonight. Matzov umanayim sever achim gam yachad hine matzov umanayim sever achim gam yachad. It is so good for us to be together. It is so great to be one echad. It is so good for us to be together. Hine matzov gam yachad.
Beautiful. Hera.
The lighting of the candles in our home symbolizes lighting the lamps of our people, the spreading of light, joy, and the knowledge of God's ways. We light and bless the festival candles tonight, making the joy that Passover brings into our home.
Beth, will you lead us in the blessing for the candles? And I'm going to light my candles on my table as well. Beth, I think you're on mute.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Beautiful.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who sanctifies us with your commandments and has commanded us to kindle the festival lights.
Thank you. Steve.
Oh, no, you muted him. It's muted. Okay.
The Kiddush cup that holds the wine is our symbol of joy. The wine is our hope for life's sweetness. When we pour the wine to the brim, it reminds us of the fullness of our days. During the Seder, we will drink 4 cups of wine. Each cup symbolizes a different aspect of Passover. With the first cup, we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. I will free you from the labors of the Egyptians.
Thank you. Kara, we invite you to read again.
Sorry. The Shekianu is a prayer of gratitude, recited at the beginning of special times. We recite it immediately after the blessing for the first cup of wine to give thanks to our opportunity to celebrate this holiday season with hope on the horizon.
Thank you. So the festival Kiddush is sung to a special tune, and if you know it, please join me. And I'm going to hold my Kiddush cup here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei puri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, v'romemanu mikol lashon, v'kidshanu b'mitzvotav. V'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'yahava, moadim lesimcha, chagim uzmanim lesason, et yom chag hamatzot hazeh, zman cherutenu mikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kiddashta, mikol ha'amim, u'moadei kodshecha b'simcha v'sason, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Yisrael, Behazmani. And now, because it is the end of Shabbat and it's Saturday night, we say a quick blessing for Havdalah to distinguish between the end of Shabbat and the beginning of Pesach. And we don't light a Havdalah candle because we've lit the festival candles, but we say Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei meorei ha'esh. And we'll just do the beginning of the Havdalah blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, ben or lechoshech, ben Yisrael le'amim. And now we will do the Shehecheyanu. Then we'll
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'hiyanu b'zman hazeh.
Now, Jonathan, would you lead us in the beginning part of the ritual washing of the hands without a blessing?
The washing of hands is a ritual of purification. We symbolically wash away the thoughts of our daily activities and any remnants of the slave mentality created by the many years of servitude our ancestors endured in Egypt. Later in our Seder, we wash our hands again and say a blessing as we prepare to eat our festive meal.
And keep going, Jonathan.
Our hands can be vehicles for creation or destruction. We cleanse our hands and dedicate them to working for good in the world.
And so now, before we read the next part, I have a little hand washing vessel here. And if anybody else has one, we just pour some water over our hands.
I'll dip them in my cup. Dip them in your cup.
Okay. Jonathan, you can keep going.
As we tell the story of Passover, we reflect on the role of water in our quest to achieve freedom, in saving the life of Moses, in the parting of the Red Sea, and for quenching our thirst and renewing our spirit through our journey in the desert.
Judy.
According to a midrash, which is a story that the rabbis of old tell, the prophet Miriam predicted the birth of her baby brother Moses and guarded him as he floated down the Nile. She witnessed Pharaoh's daughter drawing him out of the river. She arranged for their mother to care for the infant Moses. Celebrating their safe crossing of the Red Sea, Miriam led the women in joyous dancing.
Tizzy.
According to the rabbis, God honored Miriam's bravery and devotion to the Jewish people by giving her a well filled with water, which miraculously accompanied our ancestors throughout their journey in the desert. Miriam's well quenched the thirst and renewed the spirit of our ancestors as they overcame the hardship of the Exodus.
So we've placed on our Seder tables this beautiful cup filled with water. Can everybody see it? And it says Miriam on it. This is called Kos Miriam, and it's in honor of Miriam's role ensuring our people's survival during their 40-year journey in the desert. So now each of us takes a sip of water in remembrance of this remarkable woman who was a prophet and a guardian of our people. And the reason that we drink water is because water is a symbol of life. L'chaim. Sarah, we have a special song dedicated to Miriam. Just like later on, we'll have a special song dedicated to Eliyahu.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women dancing the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wore, which warns us in our history. With every strand and every thread, she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she danced towards the light. Chorus, everyone. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who is exalted. Miriam and the women dancing the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her, just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. Everyone, join me. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who is exalted. Miriam and the women dance and dance the whole night long.
I love that. I love the tambourine. Thank you, Zach.
The symbols of Passover are represented on our table and our Seder plate. On our Seder plate, we have a green vegetable, karpas, bitter herbs, maror, a roasted shank bone, tzaroa, a roasted egg, besa, and a sweet condiment, charoset. We've already explained the significance of Miriam's cup. As we tell the story of our deliverance from Egypt, we shall explore the meaning of each of these symbols, as well as the significance of matzah, unleavened bread, and the cup of Elijah, which are also on our Seder table.
Thank you. Sara.
Here's my karpus. Pesach is also known as Hag HaAvav, a festival of spring. Tonight we praise God for the first growth of spring. Karpus represents rebirth and renewal. In the spirit of Passover, before we eat it, we dip the karpos in salt water. We do so to remind ourselves of the tears shed by our ancestors while enslaved in Egypt.
So before you eat it, we're going to sing a song, and then we're going to do a blessing. As one of my colleagues used to say, Judaism is about delayed gratification. All right, Sara, will you lead us in Kumila from Song of Songs? Because Song of Songs, it's traditional to read Song of Songs on Pesach. Thank you.
Kumila, Kumila, Rayati, Yafati, Kumila. Kumila, Kumila, Rayati, Yafati, Kumila. Kihine hastav, Kihine hastav avar, Hageshem Halav Halav Lo. Kumilach, Kumilach, Rayati, Yafati, Kumilach.
So beautiful. Thank you. Judy, will you lead us in the blessing for the green vegetable?
I am. I just dipped it in the salt water. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, borei peri ha'adamah. Blessed are you, eternal, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the earth.
And now, you can either eat your karpas, you could also eat a boiled new potato in salt water. That's what one of my grandmothers would eat. You could also eat some appetizers. So if you notice, I'm in my living room. I like to do the first part of the Seder in the den or the living room, so we're not sitting at the table with the plates and the cups in front of us, waiting for food. I like to sit back, relaxed on a special pillow that my sister-in-law made for me. And so you can have appetizers. So now this is a great time. And if you notice, this is my Sephardic marbled egg. Yes, it's so beautiful. It does look like marble. And I have some guacamole and some karpas and some vegetables, some hearts of palm. This is a great opportunity to have some appetizers during this first part of the Seder, so you don't sit there saying, when is it time for us to eat? So since you now did your blessing for karpas, you can eat some appetizers. So as we continue with the rest of our introductory part of our Seder and the Magid, feel free to eat your appetizers. Jonathan.
We now break the middle matzah in half. The larger piece is called the afikomen. It is our tradition to hide the afikomen. After the meal, the young people at the Seder table hunt for it and return it, possibly for a reward, so that the Seder may be completed. The search for the Afikomen reminds us that it is the memory of freedoms that have been lost that inspires each generation to continue the pursuit of liberty, tolerance, and justice.
So when we break, here's my matzah cover right here. And I have broken my middle matzah. And it's customary now to, oops, it fell on the floor. It's a crummy holiday, isn't it? I don't mean lousy, but crummy. Crummy, look, that's an old joke. Crummy crumbs. I didn't make that one up. I can't get credit for it. So now it's customary to hold up your matzah and to say an ancient prayer in Aramaic called halachma. Halachma means this is the bread of affliction. And you are supposed to open your door and invite into your Seder anybody who doesn't have any food, anyone who doesn't have anywhere to go, because you want to be welcoming and you want to make sure that people have food to eat, because we had no food and we want to make sure that others are not hungry. And it's customary to invite people to your Seder who also might not have a Seder to go to. This year's a little different because of the pandemic, so I've invited people who might not have a place to go to for Zoom. So we would go to the door, we'd open the door, and when I was young, this would scare the living daylights out of me because it was dark, right? And who would come in the door? So together we'll read on mute, "This is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. All who are hungry, let them come and eat. All who are in need, let them come celebrate. Let them come celebrate Passover with us. May it be God's will to redeem us from all trouble and all servitude and the coronavirus. Next year at this season, may this whole house of Israel and all people everywhere be free from affliction, from sorrow, and from COVID." That was my addition this year.
Amen.
Amen. And we put this down and we hide the Afikomen. Steve, it's your turn again.
To our plate that held 3 pieces of matzah, we now return the second half of the middle matzah. For the oppressed, it is a symbol of hope. For free persons, it is a symbol of the responsibilities of freedom. The story of the Exodus has brought hope to many people as they faced their own struggle for freedom. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in the speeches, rallies, and marches of the American Civil Rights Movement, explicitly invoked the story of the Exodus.
Okay. Tizzy.
A symbol of hope and the responsibilities of freedom. The Exodus is something of the story of every people struggling for freedom. It is the first story of man's explicit quest for freedom, and it demonstrates the stages that seem to inevitably flow the quest for freedom. This is the power of the story of the Exodus. It is both a historical story and a contemporary symbol of hope.
Thank you. All right, Jonathan.
An opportunity for a short discussion. Who are those struggling for freedom today? What are the responsibilities of free persons?
So if you like, this is a great time to pause the video and either to have a discussion with those people who are celebrating with you in your home. And if you're in your house by yourself like me, either you could pause and do some reflection or just think about these for the future. And if you choose not to pause, this might be a time just to do some thinking, and you can continue with the Seder. Zach.
May the story of the Exodus continue to be a source of hope for all those who seek freedom from persecution and oppression. Let it remind us of freedom's blessings as we move forward on our journey as free people.
Amen. Hera, the introduction to the Manish Chana.
The 4 questions. At our Passover Seder, we ask 4 questions as we inquire, why is this night different from all other nights? The questions ask, Why is there a change in our everyday routine for our Passover evening meal? By asking and answering these questions, we explore the meaning of Passover for our children and for all those at our Seder table. For those who are unacquainted with the Passover symbols and rituals, and for those who seek a deeper understanding of the story of Exodus.
Thank you. Sara, will you introduce the very special person who's going to be singing the Manish Chana tonight for us?
I would love to introduce. This is my oldest granddaughter, Charlotte Schultz, and she is in first grade, so she's learning to read and reads very well, and she's going to sing the 4 questions for us, because she's the youngest person here, obviously.
We are so excited, Charlotte, to have you with us tonight. Thank you.
Manish Chana halayla hazeh mikol halelot shebakol halelot anu chamet fu matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah shebakol halelot enanu ain't achim share your coat halayla hazeh maror halayla hazeh maror shebakol halilot in anu mapelin afilu pa'am echlat halayla hazeh shitei ve'amin halayla hazeh shitei ve'amin shebakol halilot in an
Ein anu ochlim shebachol halilot anu ochlim
bin yochvenu vin misubin halayla hazeh kulanu misubin halayla hazeh kulanu misubin.
That was so beautiful, Charlotte. You can sing the Manish Chana for me anytime. Beautiful. Thank you. So, those were the traditional 4 questions, but there might be additional questions that anyone else might like to ask, because not all questions might have an answer. The most important thing is that you ask questions. That is what this night is all about. So this might be a time to pause. I want you to wait for one more slide. I want you to think about, what are the questions you would like to ask this year? And to whom would you like to ask them? What are the questions do you think other people might ask of you? I don't know if you can read the small print on the screen, but the Reform rabbis came out with a new Haggadah called Mishkan HaSeder. And these are some additional questions that they have asked this year. And you could answer any of a combination of these 4. So you could pause and go back and look at those few slides that I just put up on the screen. Or you could keep on going with the Seder. You could ask each other any combination of questions. But the important thing is to ask and to think and to figure out what is important for you to know, to inquire about going forward. Beth, would you like to continue reading in our Haggadah?
Thank you. We celebrate tonight because we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, and God delivered us from bondage to freedom. Had our ancestors not been redeemed from Egyptian slavery, we, our children, and our children's children would have remained slaves. Even if all of us were wise and educated by our study of Torah, it would still be our responsibility each year to tell the story of our deliverance from Egypt, to dwell at length on the remembrance of our exodus from Egypt on Passover is considered praiseworthy.
Thank you. Zach, will you lead us in Avadim Hayinu?
I'd love to. Avadim Hayinu, Hayinu, Ata b'nei chorim, b'nei chorim, Avadim Hayinu, Ata b'nei chorim, Ata b'nei chorim, Avadim Hayinu, Hayinu, Ata b'nei chorim, b'nei chorim, Avadim Hayinu, Ata b'nei chorim, Ata b'nei chorim.
Thank you. Zach, you're going to continue.
Matzah symbolizes both slavery and freedom. Matzah is our bread of affliction. It is a symbol of our rush to freedom, the food we ate when liberated from Egyptian bondage. When our ancestors rushed to leave Egypt, they did not have time to wait for their bread to leaven. During Passover, we eat matzah to remind us of our enslavement in Egypt and of the divine help we received during our exodus.
Thank you. Jonathan.
Why on this night do we eat especially bitter herbs? Bitter herbs, maror, represents the bitterness of slavery. We eat bitter herbs later in our Seder ceremony so that we will never forget the bitter taste of oppression.
Thanks. Judy. Judy?
Sorry. Why on this night do we dip herbs twice? Karpas is a symbol of renewed hope and the promise of spring. We dip karpas in salt water as a reminder that our ancestors viewed the hope of renewal through the tears of slavery. Later in our Seder, we shall combine maror and charoset. Maror is dipped or mixed with charoset to remind us that we withstood the bitterness of slavery because it was sweetened by the hope of freedom.
Thank you. Tizzy.
Why on this night do we recline when we eat? A pillow on our chair is a symbol of freedom. Historically, slaves sat on hard benches or on the floor when they ate, forced to rush through their meal in order to return to work. For our ancestors, reclining on pillows or couches, eating at leisure, and engaging in conversation were symbols of freedom. Our pillows symbolize our ability to recline as free persons, declaring to the world that we will not be enslaved.
So now we come to the part of the Seder where we talk about 4 different children. As we can see, the number 4 takes primary place in our Seder. We have the Chacham, the wise one, the Rasha, the wicked one, the Tam, the simple one, and the one Eino Yechol Lishol, the one who is unable to ask. We're not going to read through all of these now. You can stop and pause during any one of these slides. But this is a great opportunity for you with your family or friends or with yourself to think about who would be a wise person today. What would they have to say about oppression, freedom, liberation? Who would be a wicked person, and what would their thoughts be about this in modern times? Who would be a simple one? What kind of questions would they ask? And who would be the one who doesn't even know where to begin? And what kinds of things might they be thinking about in today's world? Jonathan, will you continue?
In every generation and in every land, tyrants have sought to destroy us. Ever since the covenant with Abraham, God has been our guardian and our hope. Whether we are celebrating our first Seder or have celebrated the Seder every year of our lives, whether we are young or old, we should consider the Passover story and how God has been our unfailing support through the millennia.
So the Passover story of deliverance and redemption that we now recount has provided a shared sense of experience for the Jewish people for over 3,000 years. And we're supposed to tell this story in 4 different ways, like I mentioned earlier. You could either read the story as it appears in the Haggadah. You could read the story as it appears in the Torah text, because that's where we learned about the story. You need to know who is at your Seder. Is it young kids? You could have them make a mural of it or act it out in a play. There's so many different ways, and we are going to model some of those ways tonight. We're going to read some Torah text a little bit or suggest some Torah text. You're going to see a few different kinds of things tonight as we tell the story. Jonathan?
The Torah tells us that when harsh famine engulfed the land of Canaan, our forefather Jacob and his household went down into Egypt. Joseph, one of Jacob's sons, was already in Egypt. Joseph had helped Pharaoh eliminate the threat of famine during 7 years of plentiful harvest. He was favored by Pharaoh, had risen high in the Egyptian court, and was able to provide possessions and security to his father and brothers.
Now would be a great opportunity to actually read the story of Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat directly from the Torah itself. So if you have a Torah, you would read that story or parts of it, which can be found in Genesis chapter 39, verse 1 through Genesis 50, 26. Or you could watch the movie, not right now during your Seder, but afterwards. You could watch the movie Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. You could watch Prince of Egypt. You could watch 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston. There's so many different things that you can do. But right now, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about a modern Exodus story, a reflection on the Rohingya crisis, which is so timely right now. And I have to get a little closer because my eyes cannot see this screen. So while we recount the story of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, the Rohingya people of Burma, formerly known as Myanmar, have moved through the wilderness in search of freedom today. And due to the brutal genocidal campaign led by the Burmese military that escalated in 2017, the Rohingya communities were burned, tortured, and extinguished en masse. More than 730,000 survivors fled to under-resourced refugee camps in Bangladesh, where they remain, as we speak, in limbo. And their story does echo our own, and we know so many other people whose story echoes our own as well. We were enslaved, and they were interned in camps. Our babies were drowned, and theirs were burned in pyramids. Judy, will you continue?
We died by lash, they by gun and torch and knife. We crossed the sea to freedom. They walked for many days and forded a river in search of refuge. We were sustained by manna from heaven. They need humanitarian aid to survive. Our shared history demands that we act. We must respond with an open hand and an outstretched arm. As survivors of persecution, annihilation, and exodus ourselves, it's our turn to call out for others, imploring, demanding freedom. And so if you want to learn more about the Rohingya crisis, and if you want to join the AJWS's campaign, you can go visit their website, ajws.org/Rohingya.
And AJWS stands for American Jewish World Service, a highly, highly reputable organization, and they do such important work. So this is just one example of a modern day Exodus story, and I'm sure that you can think of others that would be so meaningful. So now back to our own story. We know the story, how a Pharaoh arose who didn't know Joseph and all the work that he had done for the Egyptians, for the Israelites who ended up in Egypt due to a famine. And he was afraid of this people that were not Egyptian, who grew too numerous in their midst. And he was worried, and he demanded that the baby boys be killed. And he thought if there were no baby boys, that the women and children would become vulnerable. And there were midwives who decided they weren't going to kill the baby boys. And so we all know that little baby Moses was hidden in a basket in the Nile River. And Pharaoh's daughter found him and knew it was a Jewish baby, an Israelite baby, and decided to keep Moses for her own. And little baby Moses was raised as a prince of Egypt. And here are some of the things that I suggested before. And you could tell the story yourselves, because I'm sure that so many of you know it. So you could tell it by somebody giving a sentence and somebody else. Oh, geez. Sorry. I just spilled water everywhere. To symbolize baby Moses in the water. I was feeling so empathetic with Moses in the water. There's water all over my couch to symbolize the Nile River. So you could go around the table and share the story of Moses and growing up as a prince of Egypt. There are so many different ways to tell the story. Tizzy, will you continue?
Okay. In Egypt, Moses spoke the word to God to Pharaoh, saying, "Let my people go." When Pharaoh refused to release our ancestors from slavery, God afflicted the people and land of Egypt with 10 plagues, each one worse than the one before. It was only after the 10th plague, the slaying of the firstborn, that Pharaoh yielded and allowed us to begin our departure from Egypt.
I'm coming back. What's Pesach without a little spills? It wouldn't be Pesach without some spills, right?
Correct.
All right, Sarah.
Okay.
So what you have here is a picture I found on the internet, but Sarah is actually going to share something special that she has made. And she's going to continue telling the story of the Exodus.
I don't know if you can see it, but Jonathan, come around this side with the camera. We have little houses where when the Jews lived in these houses, and they
Sarah, can you tell us what you made them out of?
Oh, these are made out of Legos, both the Duplo for younger children and the medium size, and some of the very small Legos for the older kids. So I can see there's blood on the doorpost for the sacrificial lamb, and these are the homes that all the slaves were living in when they were under the burden of slavery. We have here our pyramid that they built with mud and straw. They made bricks and they labored and they were tired all the time and they were treated very, very badly. So they grabbed their dough, which we had no leavening in, and they carried it on their back and they walked down the path all the way. But we're going to stop right at the Red Sea. All the Jews, they look like they're smiling, but they're not smiling. They're very tired. And they're going to stop here. And I think that Judy's going to continue, right? Story here?
Yes. That was awesome. It took such a long time for you to build that.
Oh, it was fun.
But we have a song first before Judy continues.
Okay.
Zach is going to sing a song for us.
When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. pressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. Said the Lord, well, Moses said, let my people go. If not, I'll smite your firstborn dead. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. The Lord told Moses what to do. Let my people go. To lead the children of Israel through. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. When they reach the other shore, let my people go. Sang a song of triumph, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go.
I love that.
All right, Zach.
That was so fun.
Oh, yeah, I love that song. So,
Judy.
these two guys heard the story for the first time last year, but guess what, guys? We're going to tell it again, because every year we tell the story, and every year our ears hear something new. So the children of Israel, as Sarah just told you, had gotten to the Sea of Reeds, but Pharaoh had sent his army to bring them back. So the army was behind them. The water was in front of them. What were they going to do? Well, Midrash says that one man, Nachshon ben Aminadav, was willing to walk into the water even though the water had not yet parted. And he started walking into the water, and the water came up to his ankles, and he kept on going. And the water got up to his knees, and he kept on going. And he kept on going, and the water was up to his waist. And then the water was up to his shoulders, but he kept on going. The water got up to his chin, and guess what? He didn't stop. The water was up to his nose, and finally the waters parted, and Nachshon walked through on the dry land, and the children of Israel followed them. And so when things look the darkest, when it looks like they can't possibly get any worse, if we just keep moving forward, if we do our own part, God will help, liberation will happen. And so what happened after the children of Israel got through the dry land, got through the Sea of Reeds? Well, this Egyptian army that was following them started to go through the dry land, and God caused the waters to come back down. The waters closed again, and Pharaoh's army was drowned.
Thank you. Thank your friends for helping us tell a story.
They were fascinated.
Kara?
The story of Moses and the liberation from Egypt. And God brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arms, and with signs and wonders. Deuteronomy 26:8. And God commanded us to observe the Passover each year, and to teach our children about Passover throughout all generations.
Thank you. So now we have the part that I know so many people really wait for. It's the recitation of the 10 plagues. But before we do that, we're going to make sure you fill up your cup of wine again. Don't drink it yet, because we are going to take out a drop of wine from our cups while we recite the plagues, because a full cup of wine represents a full cup of joy. And we don't rejoice that another people had to suffer, that the Egyptians had to suffer in order that we had to go free. And in fact, there's a story that the rabbis tell that says the angels rejoiced when the Egyptians drowned, and God said, how can you rejoice when my children are drowning? So we take out one drop of wine for every plague to symbolize that loss. But before we even get to that part, Sarah and Zach are going to sing a song, and then we're going to do the plagues. All right, Sarah and Zach, take it away.
Rabbi Sobel?
Yes.
If you can pin Sarah's video.
Oh, you're asking me too much. I don't think I can do that.
If you have the 3 dots in the video?
Zach just...
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Blood in the water made the river run red. 10 plagues in Egypt land. Now Pharaoh should have listened to what God said. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. The frogs were jumping in Pharaoh's hair. 10 plagues in Egypt land. Pharaoh didn't like it, but the frogs didn't care. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Creepy, crawly, itchy lice. 10 plagues in Egypt land. Mess with the Holy One, better think twice. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. The 50 flies so dirty and vile. 10 plagues in Egypt land. Not exactly Pharaoh style. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. The cattle and the horses and the oxen died. 10 plagues in Egypt land. I won't give up, old Pharaoh cried. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Boils and blisters on his skin. 10 plagues in Egypt land. Give it up, Pharaoh, you're never gonna win. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. The hail rained down from the heavens on high. 10 plagues in Egypt land. Hurt so much made Pharaoh cry. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Swarms of locusts ate the crops, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Hard-hearted Pharaoh just wouldn't stop, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Dark descended in the light of day, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Pharaoh was lost, couldn't find his way. 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Firstborn, final blow, 10 plagues in Egypt land. Finally Pharaoh let the people go, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plagues in Egypt land.
Wow.
Thank you, Schultz family.
Great. Thank you, Schultz family. That was the most
Fun.
That was the most colorful hail I've ever seen. That was great. And now I know how to pin a video. So now we are going to do the plagues together. I'm going to take out a little drop of wine. If you have a little plate, I learned how to do it with wine. So we're going to do it together. We'll do it in English, in Hebrew and English. Dam, blood, Sfardeya, frogs, kinim, lice, arov, wild beasts, dever, blight, shechin, boils, barad, hail, arbe, locusts, choshech, darkness, makat bechorot, the slaying of the firstborn, and you're not supposed to lick your finger because you don't want to taste it. And I think we should add an 11th plague, COVID, even though it didn't afflict the Egyptians, it's afflicting us. Thank you. Jonathan, the introduction to Dayenu.
Dayenu is a song of gratitude. Dayenu means it would have been sufficient or enough. We acknowledge our gratitude for each blessing we received and still receive to this day.
Sarah.
Oh. Ilu Hotzianu Mitzrayim, Hotzianu Mitzrayim, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu Hotzianu Natamanu, Eta Shabbat, Natamanu, Eta Shabbat, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natamanu, eta Torah, natamanu, eta Torah, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu.
Thank you, Schultz family. Steve.
Remembering the Exodus, 3 Passover symbols. If enemies again rise against us, the remembrance of the Exodus from Egypt will never fail to inspire us with new courage and strengthen our faith in God, who redeems the oppressed. Exploring the meaning of the Passover symbols helps us to remember. Rabban Gamaliel, one of Judaism's great scholars, 1st century CE, taught that whoever does not discuss or expound upon the symbolic meaning of the Pesach, the shank bone, matzah, and maror, bitter herbs, has not truly celebrated the Passover festival.
Thank you. Beth.
What is the meaning of Pesach? The shank bone reminds us that God passed over our houses and spared us on the watch night. When Pharaoh refused to release us from slavery, God afflicted the people of Egypt with the 10th plague, the slaying of the firstborn. The doorposts of our houses were marked with lamb's blood, so that God would pass over our homes and our lives would be spared.
So for those of you who don't eat meat or who are vegetarian or vegan or don't like the smell of cooking lamb, this is a vegetarian shank bone. It's a roasted beet, and it bleeds red. You just take a whole beet and stick it in your oven and roast it at like 400 or 425 for an hour. And that's what you can use for a shank bone. Jonathan.
What is
the meaning of matzah? Matzah is unleavened bread that symbolizes both slavery and freedom. It is our bread of affliction and a symbol of the divine help we received when we were liberated from Egyptian bondage. As God has saved us from all kinds of distress, so may God always inspire us with courage to remove every trace of bondage among all peoples.
Tizzy.
What is the meaning of maror? Maror is a bitter herb. It reminds us that the lives of our ancestors were made bitter from the oppression of Egyptian slavery. Exodus 1:14. As God has blessed us with freedom, so may God always inspire us to be messengers of God's word to those in need of hope.
Thank you. Jonathan.
You shall tell your child on that day, it is because of what God did for me when I came forth out of Egypt. This passage in the book of Exodus is the inspiration for the most important words spoken during the Passover Seder.
Beth.
In every generation, each individual is bound to regard himself or herself as if he or she had personally gone forth from Egypt. B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam lirot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa mi Mitzrayim.
Thank you. Judy. Judy?
Sorry. Our rabbis teach that Hallel, psalms of gratitude and praise, were sung to God at the shores of the Red Sea. We sing God's praises now for redeeming us from persecution, oppression, and slavery, and for the promise of freedom and peace for all peoples.
Thank you. Zach, do you want to lead us in a short Hallel? A short Hallelujah?
Hallelujah, 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 kol hashama hallelujah, hallelujah, kol hashama
So we now get ready for the second cup of wine, which is your hint, your clue that we are getting ready, almost, not quite getting ready to finish this second act of the Seder, the act where we're getting ready to finish with the telling of the Passover story. Now we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. V'hotzeti etchem me'avodatam. We drink the second cup of wine to celebrate the survival of the Jewish people. We remember how we were enslaved in Egypt. We retained our belief in God, how faith and hope for the future gave us the will to survive and ultimately the strength to pursue the freedom promised by God. Judy, can you lead us in the blessing?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
So now is our second hand washing. When we began our Seder, we had 3 pieces of matzah on a plate. We now break and distribute the upper matzah. I'm sure you're thinking, what does that have to do with hand washing? But before performing the mitzvah of eating the matzah and our festival meal, we're going to wash our hands and recite the blessing. So I have my little cup of water. That was not the water that I spilled. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who has made us holy with your commandments and commanded us concerning the washing of our hands. Sarah, do you want to lead us in the 2 blessings before we can actually eat?
Sure. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
Matzah eat?
Now we can eat. So matzah is a form of bread, and that's why we say hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and we say the prayer that's specific to matzah. So you can eat a piece of matzah. I don't know about you, but I love matzah. Kara.
Maror, blessing for the bitter herbs. In preparation for eating maror, it is customary to dip the bitter herbs into the sweet haroset, but not enough to take away from the taste of the bitterness. By doing so, we fulfill the second dipping referred to in the 4 questions. Since maror is a symbol of bitter enslavement and reclining is a symbol of freedom, we do not recline when we eat maror.
Zach, will you lead us in the blessing for the maror? Zach?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us concerning the eating of bitter herbs.
And I have fresh horseradish here, so it will be, when I smell it, it reminds me of Passover. I'm eating the whole piece.
To carry out Hillel's sandwich, to carry out the injunction, they shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, our great sage Hillel from the 1st century BCE combined matzah and maror on Passover, and he ate them together. Tonight, we eat a sandwich of matzah, maror, and charoset, which is my favorite thing to eat on Passover, that Hillel sandwich, to remember that in times of freedom, we must not forget the bitterness of slavery, and in times of oppression, we must keep alive the hope of freedom.
So before we actually go to the meal, we're going to eat our Hillel sandwich. And then, So now you can pause the Seder, you can pause the video to eat your meal. I hope everybody has some delicious food, and we'll come back. You can come back whenever your dinner is done. Don't eat the afikomen yet, because that is going to, you should eat your dessert first before you come back, because the afikomen is supposed to be the last thing that you eat. You're supposed to end the Seder with the taste of matzah on your mouth. So we look forward to seeing you all when you come back, and we'll conclude our Seder together. Welcome back. We hope you had a lovely dinner. I know mine was so delicious. How was yours, Schultz family? How was your dinner? Are you still there?
Incredible.
How was your dinner with your friends there? Gonzo and I forgot his name.
Animal and Gonzo. And Animal has really been restraining himself from playing the drums while Zach and Sarah have been playing guitar and singing, because that's what he does. Anyway, our dinner was absolutely delicious.
All right, Beth, how was your dinner?
Our dinner was yummy, because the cook is really good at this.
How was your dinner?
It was delicious. Very, very good.
Well, I hope everyone had a lovely festival meal. So now it's time to find the afikomen. So if you haven't hid the afikomen in your house, I have a little surprise for you. So the word afikomen is actually a Greek word that means dessert. And it's a way to keep all the kids engaged. So is Charlotte still with us, Sarah?
Yes, she's right here.
Charlotte, are you ready? I want you to look at the computer screen really carefully. All right. All right, Charlotte. This is, instead of where's Waldo, it is find the afikomen. So I'm going to leave this screen up for a minute. Not long enough, I know. One of my friends, her son did this. And yes, he made it. Find the afikomen. If you can find the afikomen, you can pause the video or take a screenshot if you need more time. But this is the opportunity, and then you can bargain. You can bargain in order to buy back the afikomen, because we found it, Charlotte?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, because we cannot end the Seder until everybody gets a little piece of that afikomen. So, yes, I did not find it, but Charlotte, if you can find the afikomen. I also have some great afikomen finding games to bargain. So, Charlotte, I'm happy to send this to you.
We're going to focus on it later. We'll look later.
So, Charlotte, I will send this to you, okay? That you can look for it. But everybody can have a little taste of the afikomen. And what we are going to do, everybody take a little taste of the afikomen, and we're going to but now once you've eaten the birkat ham, once you've eaten, I think I had a little too much wine already. We are going to do birkat hamazon, grace after meals. And if you know it, you can do it with me on mute. Chaverim Chaverot nivarach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach me'ata ve'ad olam. Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach me'ata ve'ad olam. Birshut hachavera nivarech Eloheinu shachanu mishelo, Baruch Eloheinu shachanu mishelo. B'tuvo chayinu, Baruch Eloheinu shachanu mishelo. B'tuvo chayinu, Baruch u'Baruch Shemo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hazan et haolam b'chol kulo b'tuvo b'chein b'chesed u'vrachamim, hu noten lechem l'chol basar ki le'olam chasto, ובטובה הגדול תמיד לא חסר לנו ואל יחסר לנו מזון לעולם ועד בעבור שמו הגדול כי הוא עזנו מפרנס לכל ומיטיב לכל ומכין מזון לכל בריאותם אשר ברא ברוך אתה אדוני azan et hakol kakatu v'yachata v'salvata u'merachta et Adonai Elohecha al ha'aretz hatova asher natan lach baruch ata Adonai al ha'aretz v'al hamazon u'v'nei Yerushalayim er ha'kodesh b'mehera b'yameinu baruch ata Adonai Bohone berachamav Yerushalayim amen Harachaman hu yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed Harachaman hu yitbarach b'shamayim uva'aretz Harachaman hu yishlach bracha meruba b'bayit hazeh ve'al shulchan zeh on this table she'achanu alav Harachaman hu yishlach lanu et Eliyahu Hanavi Zechor Latov Vivaser Lanu Besorot Tovot Yeshua V'Nechahamot Harachaman Hu Yanchilenu Yom Shekulo Tov Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imaru Amen Adonai Oz Le'amo Yiten Adonai Yivarech et amo v'shalom. And now it's time for the third cup of wine. Steve?
Blessing for the third cup of wine. Now we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and great acts of judgment. As we drink the third cup of wine, we celebrate the holy bonds between family and friends and our sacred connection to all men, women, and children of every religion, race, and creed. May the goodwill in each of us draw us closer to one another, strengthening the ties between us so we may help each other through hard times as well as joyously celebrate good times together.
Thank you. Jonathan, the blessing?
Together, let us raise the third cup of wine and say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Thank you. So now we're getting ready to open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, and we say, Baruch atah b'voecha u'baruch atah b'seitecha. Blessed are you in your coming, and blessed are you in your going. Let me show you my Elijah's cup, and my Elijah's cup is empty. I like to start with an empty Elijah's cup. Elijah represents the hope for the future, the coming of the Messianic age. And Elijah is supposed to announce the coming of the Messiah when this world will be perfect. Well, this world will not get to be perfect unless each of us does something to make this world a better place. So what I like to do at my Seder, I like to go around the table, have everybody say one thing that they're going to do between this Pesach and next year at Pesach to make this world a better place, as each of us pours a little bit of wine from our cup into Elijah's cup. And by the time we go around the table, you'll see the cup of wine will be full. So if each of us does our part to make this world a better place, we will bring redemption to our world. So we're going to go around our Zoom table. We're going to each say one thing that we're going to do, and then we're going to open the door for Eliyahu. So I'm going to start with Judy. Judy, what's one thing you'd like to do over the coming year to make this world a better place?
I gave this a lot of thought because there is so much that needs to be done in this world. But I think for me personally, I have a lot of out-of-town relatives, and I don't call them or stay in touch with them as frequently as I should. I'm going to make a real effort to call them much more often this coming year.
I like that. And you know what? There is so much to be done, but we can't do everything. And we're just looking for one thing. Beautiful. Beth?
I am not going to just speak out when I see rights that need to be wronged. I am going to act out.
Thank you. Beautiful. Zach? We'll keep it all in the family right now.
I'm going to do a lot more to reduce unnecessary energy consumption by turning off electronics when they're not in use and making sure that things aren't plugged in and draining from our electric grid that just has a whole rolling coaster towards increasing all of our energy use. And we really need to bring that down so that our world maintains a better place and so that we don't contribute to global warming.
Thank you. Beautiful. Kara?
I am going to volunteer more for things that are important to my family and me, volunteering more at events for TVZ and stepping up for that, as well as for some personal things related to family members.
Thank you. Beautiful. And Sarah, I will let you go around the room in your house, but we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Oh, can we start with Charlotte? Is it okay? Because she's got to go somewhere.
Charlotte. Charlotte, what would you like to do?
I am going to do as much trashing as possible.
Do you want to see what trashing is?
Yes. Trashing is when you go exercising and you pick up trash in the woods.
I love that idea. Thank you. I've never heard that term before. I love it. Thank you.
Tiz?
I'm going to spread positive energy to everyone and take out any negative that I have and just try to turn everything negative into positivity.
Beautiful.
Steve?
I'm going to continue to treat sick old pets for this year. And then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do after that.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know where Jonathan went, but I can say mine. I want to reach out to other temple members and form a green team or an environmental committee for the temple to reduce our carbon footprint of the temple, and also to help educate members and help everyone understand that Mother Earth is crying.
Beautiful. And I think, there's so many things that are so meaningful to me. I think, I don't even know where to start, but I think I want to learn how to be a better ally to those members, those in our family and community who are of Asian descent, those who are people of color, and not presuppose what needs to be done, but do what is most needed. And I might not even have the right language. So I need to figure out how to be a better ally. So let's pour that wine into that Elijah's cup. We're going to open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi. And Zach, will you lead us in singing Eliyahu Hanavi?
Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatikvah, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagilari, Vimera v'yamenu, Yavo Eleinu, Imoshiach ben David, Imoshiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatikvah, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagilari.
Beautiful. I think all of you helped make our cup of redemption fill to overflowing. And I think we will bring Elijah on if we fulfill our promises. Beth, will you lead us in this blessing?
Sure, thank you. Tonight, we have opened our hearts to each other. We have sung songs, answered the 4 questions, offered blessings, and inspired one another in our study of God's teachings through the telling of the story of the Exodus. We are blessed with life's sweetness and the knowledge of God's ways. We now give thanks for the many blessings we have received, with the prayer that everyone may soon share in them.
So we can each, I think, silently share a blessing we have received or a blessing we pray that everyone may soon enjoy. If you are at a table with other people in your home, you could take this opportunity to share a blessing you've received or a blessing that you pray that everyone might soon enjoy. That's up to you. You could pause the slide now and do that. This is a great opportunity for some interactive discussion and dialogue. Tizzy, will you lead us in the top half of the slide, and then Sarah's going to lead us in Hodu Ladonai.
With words of praise, we celebrate God's presence among us, now and in the days ahead, as we give thanks for the freedom we enjoy and our ability to come together and celebrate the festival of Passover each year.
Hodu Ladonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. Yomarna, yomarna, Yisrael. Ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. Yomruna, yomruna, ve'et Aharon. Ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. Yomruna, yomruna, Yireh Adonai, ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchem mibet Adonai, Eliata be'odecha, Elohai amcha, Hodu, Hodu le'olam ki tov, Hodu l'Adonai ki tov. Ki le'olam chasto, ki le'olam chasto.
Thank you. Steve, will you lead us in our fourth and the introduction for our fourth and final cup of wine?
Now we remember God's promise to our ancestors and to every generation. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. We dedicate the fourth cup of wine to Shalom, the peace. May the one who broke Pharaoh's yoke forever shatter all fetters of oppression and hasten the day when swords shall at last be turned into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks.
Amen.
Amen. Judy, will you lead the blessing?
Now together let us raise the fourth cup of wine and say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
All right. Jonathan.
Tonight we have given thanks to God by saying a blessing over 4 cups of wine as we celebrated the sanctity of every life, the survival of the Jewish people, the holiness of our bond to every family member, and the meaning of Shalom, peace. May this Seder provide us with new spirit and energy in the year ahead as we strive to meet challenges to life's sweetness. May all peoples soon know freedom and peace.
So we are getting towards the end of our Seder, but we will have fun songs at the end. We always conclude our Seder by saying, B'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, because Jerusalem has symbolically been the spiritual center of the lives of Jews, Christians, and Muslims for millennia. It also represents the ideal. We call that Yerushalayim Shalamala, the ideal of what Yerushalayim means. Yerushalayim really means Ir Shel Shalom, city of peace. Each year, our Passover Seder renews our hope for that future, that there will be that idea of a place of peace. And tonight we once again affirm our commitment to partner with God and join with one another to help repair the world, to bring that ideal of peace, shalom, and shlemut, wholeness to our world. At the beginning of the Messianic age, we look forward to rejoicing in Jerusalem with men, women, and children of all races, religions, and creeds to embrace as one family that blessing of peace and freedom and wholeness. And it is our prayer that it might be as soon as next year. Sarah, will you lead us in the singing of L'Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim?
L'Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. L'Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim. Try with me. L'Shana Haba'ah, L'Shana Haba'ah, L'Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim. L'Shana Haba'ah, L'Shana Haba'ah, L'Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim.
Wow, we made it through the whole Seder. That was beautiful. Don't rush off. We have a lot of concluding songs, some that you all know, some that are oldies but goodies, and we have some new ones. Sarah, we thought that it would be so fun to, since you're together with your family, to have your family lead us in Chad Gadya.
Absolutely. Let's bring it up a couple of notches and away we go. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Then came the cat and ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Came the dog and bit the cat and ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. And came the stick and beat the dog and bit the cat and ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. We need another page. Then came the fire and burned the stick and beat the dog and bit the cat and ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Then came the water and quenched the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog and bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Then came the ox that drank the water that quenched the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Then came the butcher that killed the ox that drank the water that quenched the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought 4 Jews. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Then came the angel of death and
Slew the butcher and killed the ox, and drank the water that quenched the fire. Burned the stick that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid, that father bought more to the son. Agadia,
There's one more verse.
Oh, wow. Then came the Holy One, who blessed be God, and destroyed the angel of death, that slew the butcher, that killed the ox, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burned the stick, beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid. My father fought for two to see.
That's just so much fun. Now we have a new one. Zach, will you lead us and part the waters?
Yes. Part the waters, part the waters, part the waters, walk them through. Jews were running out of Egypt swiftly as could be, but no one knew just what would happen when they reached the sea. They were getting scared and many thought they would drown, but God would not let them go down. God would not let them go down. Hey, part the waters, part the waters, part the waters, walk them through. Part the waters, part the waters, part the waters, walk them through. When Moses said to Israel, have no fear, you're not alone. And then he raised his staff, and then a brave man named Nachshon walked into the sea up to his nose and did not quit. And then the waters split, and then those waters split. Part the waters, part the waters, walk them through. Part the waters, part the waters, part the waters, walk them through. And then the Jews walked through the sea and reached the other side. And the Egyptians never made it through the sea alive. Then Moses, Miriam, and the Jews, they danced and sang the whole day long. They thanked God with their songs. Yes, they thank God with their songs. Hey, part the waters, part the waters, part the waters. So walk them through. Part the waters, part the waters, part the waters. Walk them through. Part the waters, part the waters, part the waters.
Wow, I love it. Do you feel ready to do a Chad Miyudea?
Oh, I don't know about this one. Let's see, I'll have everybody who's on Zoom, while we're on mute, and everybody who's watching the service, try to sing this one with me, because it's a mouthful for sure. Echad mi yodea, echad ani yodea. Echad Eloheinu, 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 Eloheinu. Sheva Shemayim u'be'aretz, Shnayim mi yodea, Shnayim ani yodea. Shnei luchot ha'abrit, Echad Eloheinu, 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 Eloheinu. Sheva Shemayim u'be'aretz. Shlosha ani yodea, shlosha ani yodea, shlosha avot, shnei luchot habrit, echad Eloheinu, 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 sheva shemayim u'be'aretz, arba ani yodea, arba ani yodea, arba imahot. Shlosha avot, shnei luchot habrit, echad Eloheinu, 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 sheva shemayim u'be'aretz. ובארץ, חמישה אני יודע, חמישה אני יודע. 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 6 אני יודע, 6 אני יודע. 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 7 אני יודע, 7 אני יודע. 7 ימי שבתה, 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 8 אני יודע, 8 אני יודע. 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתה, 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 9 אני יודע, 9 אני יודע. 9 ירחי לידה, 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתה, 6 משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 10 אני יודע, 10 אני יודע. 10 דבריה, 9 ירחי לידה, 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתה, 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 11 אני יודע, 11 אני יודע. 11 קובע, 13 דבריה, 9 ירחי לידה, 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתה, 6 סדר משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 12 אני יודע, 12 אני יודע. 12 שידיה, 11 קולחיה, 10 דבריה, 9 ירחי לידה, 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתה, 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ. 13 אני יודע, 13 אני יודע. 13 מידיה, 12 שיטיה, 11 קולחיה, 10 דבריה, 9 ירחי לידה, 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתה, 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אהבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ.
Woo! That's awesome. You need to breathe now. That's great. All right.
Yasher Koach.
All right. Great job.
Yeah, Yasher Koach, Zach. Better you than me. I get the easy one.
Now for a little fun. Judy.
My dad at every Seder breaks a matzah piece in two and hides the afikomen in half, a game for me and you. Find it, hold it, ransom, for the Seder isn't through till the afikomen's gone. Don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen, or the meal will last all night. One year, Daddy hid it neath a pillow on a chair, but just as I raced over, my Aunt Sophie sat down there. She threw herself upon it. Awful crunching filled the air, and the crumbs flew all around. Don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen, or the meal will last all night. There were mops of crumbs all over. Oh, it was a messy sight. We swept up all the pieces, though it took us half the night. So if you want your Seder ending sooner than dawn's light, don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen. Don't sit on the afikomen, or the Seder will last all night.
That was so fun. So before I go to the next slide, the next song is our very last song. We're going to end with Hatikvah, the Israeli national anthem, the Hope. So we invite you to please stand if that's your custom. And the Seder will end after that. Thank you so much to Judy Henn, to Zach Steinberg, to Beth Steinberg, Kara Kane, Sara Schultz, Steve Schultz, Jonathan Schultz, Charlotte Schultz, Tizzy Schachter, and everybody in the Schultz family, and all of you. Did I miss anybody who's on my Zoom screen? I think I got everyone. Thank you to all of you for joining us and for celebrating Pesach with us. As we say, Lishana Haba'a b'Yerushalayim, and Lishana Haba'a in person, not on Zoom. Though I have to say, doing it on Zoom also enables people with whom we could not be in person because they're so distant to be with us. We can do it in person and Zoom in those who we can't celebrate with in person. So thank you so much. We wish you a Chag Pesach Sameach. We wish you good health going forward. And now we rise for Hatikvah.
Kolot balev avnima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulfatei mizrach kadima, ayin le'Tzion Sophia, od lo avdat tikvatenu, Hatikvah bat shnot apayim, liot al chofshi